As you know, Carla Suarez-Weiser, our editor-in-chief, has also stressed the importance of research and editorial integrity. And all of the boxes on this page are elements where we have said we need to do more to ensure that Cochrane both leads and is in the way that we work, showing that we have research and editorial integrity. The recent kerfuffle over the Lancet's articles on COVID-19 research are a wonderful example of how a global reputation can be besmirched very easily. We also need to respond to user need by producing new high-quality content in new areas. And that means that we've developed a new publishing strategy, which the Cochrane board signed off in Santiago last year, which included a new journal submission process out with the process by which we go through a normal Cochrane review production process, with a fast track for completed reviews, and the development in the coming years of new journals and databases beyond the CDSR and Central that will be developed and offered in Cochrane Library for its subscribers. We also need to make sure that we're keeping Cochrane as the international standard setter for synthesized evidence. The new Cochrane Handbook for Systematic Reviews was, of course, published last year. The DTA review methods handbook, I'm assured, will be published this year. And we want to maintain Cochrane's position as a leading evidence standard setter in this field, not only in relation to health, but also in the development of good methodological practice for evidence across multiple sectors. More of that in a moment. We also need to complete and improve a more integrated technology platform. This is something we've been working on for many years, and I think, to be fair, it's an area where we've not gone fast enough and not achieved as much as we wanted to, and our ambitions we had expected to. This will be really important to support more efficient synthesized evidence production, to improve the author experience, and to provide a coherent platform which allows evidence to be produced rapidly, and to make sure that people have a wonderful experience in working with us and come back or are attracted to work with us because of that ease of producing their evidence and their experience of working with us. We've also invested a lot of time and effort and are now beginning to see the capabilities unleashed through breaking out the data inside our synthesized reviews through PICO and the linked data program, which was launched last year and again has shown its value in the development of the COVID-19 registry and attracting increasing users to that registry because of the flexibility of and adaptability of the PICO terminology that's in there, and the tagging of reviews. At the centerpiece, though, of the production challenge, both in the past and to come, is the development of the new Cochrane Review Group networks. These are the new face of Cochrane evidence, and it's absolutely essential that those new 8 review group networks engage with external stakeholders in an ever more effective way, that they establish key evidence priorities as a result of that process, and then drive increasing production efficiencies through improved processes and shared resources within the CRGs within each group network. Now, so far, those CRG networks have developed in different paces and in slightly different ways. We need to accelerate these processes of change and development, and need to do that fairly rapidly to make sure that we are both keeping the best of the old-time and traditional ways of developing Cochrane reviews, whilst also capturing those greater efficiencies and capacities that are inside the new network. networks, and because the networks are placed not only in relation to our production, but also our knowledge translation work, to make sure that they're driving the work of our author teams and our CRGs in increasingly coherent and focused and prioritized ways. So far, I think we can say that we've maybe not achieved as much as we wanted, but we've achieved an enormous amount. And the traditional metrics that we use, and these are only some of them, in relation to our quality and the complexity of the evidence that we're producing, shows that we are doing well. The CDSR's impact factor has grown from 5.9 in 2013 to 7.9 in 2019. Citations have increased. The mean number of included studies in new and updated Cochrane reviews, a proxy for the complexity of the questions that we're addressing, has gone up from 13.1 in 2016 to 18.8 in the 6 months to June this year. And we also stopped measuring from the end of 2018 the number of reviews containing summary of findings tables, a really important quality indicator for us in the preceding 5 years, because we were up to pretty much every review where that was relevant, summary of findings tables are being incorporated. So good progress in goal 1, but a long way to go with some very significant challenges which we recognise. In relation to goal 2, making our evidence accessible, this is at the heart, as I've already stressed, of the change that Strategy 2020 brought to Cochrane, to focus our minds and our efforts on how Cochrane evidence was accessed and used. And our knowledge translation framework and work has been at the centerpiece of this transformation over recent years, with us focusing on our primary audiences, consumers and the public, practitioners, policymakers and healthcare managers, and researchers and funders. I hope all of that is well known to you. We've developed KT resources which have produced an enormous increase in outreach and KT work by people in every sphere of Cochrane life. A new KT learning module will be launched in August, and the KT mentorship program was successfully piloted early this year, and its second run will begin later this year. So KT is at the centre of what we're doing, and an important part of KT, and an area where we can say we've had enormous success over the course of the last 5 to 6 years, is in developing evidence that speaks many languages. As you can see, we've taken the total number of abstracts and plain language summaries translated from 11,000 over the preceding 20 years of Cochrane's life in 2013 to now over 29,000 at the end of 2019. 77% of all visits to Cochrane.org are by visitors using non-English language browsers. That was only 6% in 2013. The Cochrane Library is available now completely in Spanish, and we're committing ourselves to try as quickly as possible to make the library available in French and Chinese in the coming years, and to expand the linguistic capacities of both the library and Cochrane.org more and more in the coming years over those 16 languages, and possibly even more as we develop our capacities in that area. Another transformation, which is we almost kind of forget about, was that in 2013, none of Cochrane's reviews were open access. The beginning of Cochrane's strategy for 2020 came together with our commitment to increasing open access provision as an organisation of our evidence. And at the end of 2019, over 2/3 of Cochrane reviews were available open access for everybody, everywhere in the world, and 2.1 billion people around the world could access the entire library free at the point of access by virtue of our national subscriptions and free offerings through the not through the Hinari platform, but using the low and middle income country guides by the WHO. But there's no question, open access in terms of developing that further is a challenge for us. As we get closer and closer to 80, 90% of Cochrane reviews that are available open access through our processes, through our existing policy, that of course makes those who are paying for the Cochrane Library scratch their heads more and more about whether they should continue. And bearing in mind that 47% of all Cochrane library subscriptions are in the United States, that's obviously a particular challenge for us in relation to the US market. The money that we get from the Cochrane Library subscriptions are, of course, the funds that we run the organisation on. Over 90% of our funds come from that, and we've not been as successful as we hoped we could be in diversifying Cochrane's funding to make that change in Cochrane Library provision. Something that's easy for us to contemplate. In addition, whereas other websites and journals gain enormous amounts of money through advertising, sponsorship, and engagements with health providers and pharmaceutical companies and device manufacturers, we as Cochrane, given our independence, absolutely cannot do that. That route is closed off for us, and therefore our challenge is that we have to make our offerings increasingly open access, whilst also building additional value within the Cochrane Library to maintain that subscription level. Therefore, delivering more features and enhancements that bring that value to our subscribers across the world is an absolute essential priority for us in the coming decade, just as it has been in the last 7 years. But again, we can say that we've achieved very high levels of success already. Millions more people are using our evidence. This graph shows use of the Cochrane Library, and article usage is up 26% in 2019 and has nearly doubled from levels in 2017. The transformation perhaps is even greater when you look at Cochrane.org and users and visits to that, where people can access the plain language summaries and the abstracts through the evidence section on the website. In 2013, the last year before the strategy began, there were 4 million visits to Cochrane.org. Last year, there were 77 million visits, and the figures in front of you give you an idea of the way in which that's accelerating so rapidly. Turning to our goal 3, this was something where we did a lot of work early in the strategy in rebranding Cochrane, in making our website more and more accessible and usable for those coming to it in multiple languages and in its usability. We also wanted to make sure that through our advocacy work and through our partnerships with other organisations, we really expanded and extended the reach of Cochrane's influence in decision making beyond the simple production and dissemination of our evidence. And I want to focus just on a couple of key partnerships which have really borne fruit over the last few years. We have partnership with many organisations, but of course our partnership with WHO is central and has been even more important in the COVID-19 response, as Carla, I know, spoke to you about that a couple of months ago. Similarly, we as Cochrane established the first Global Evidence Summit, in which we were attempting to make Cochrane's use of and expertise in the area of methodology and evidence production available and explicable and usable to evidence producers and users in other sectors. And I'm delighted to say that the Global Evidence Summit 2 will take place, COVID-19 willing, in Prague, the Czech Republic, in October next year. And we believe that that's driving Cochrane into that centerpiece of being recognized as an organization with expertise that is applicable to many other organizations and stakeholders around the world. And I couldn't speak to Bob and the Colorado team without mentioning the outstanding partnership impact with Wikipedia, the most popular source of information on health in the world. And the CDSR is now the most referenced journal in Wikipedia as a result of the engagement and partnership we've had with Wikipedia over several years. That's now extending into the multiple Wikipedia languages. And as you can see, nearly half of all reviews, live reviews, are included or cited somewhere in Wikipedia articles. So my thanks to everybody involved in that. Again, in relation to goal 4, which was, you'll remember, critically the goal that undergirded our delivery of all those 3 fundamental, thematic and mission goals. We wanted to make sure that we did build an organisation that was diverse, inclusive and transparent. That was a global organisation that effectively harnessed the enthusiasm and skills of our volunteers, that was guided by our principles, governed accountability, managed efficiently, and made optimal uses of our resources to make sure that every dollar went as far as it possibly could. I don't have time to go through the key elements that will have been important in the development of achieving those elements of the goal. But again, we can say we have really succeeded across multiple dimensions. What I wanted to do was focus on just a couple of critical resource contributors, and that's our people and our publishing and finance. Cochrane will die if we don't continue to attract and retain the very best people, not only this year, but in the decade and beyond to come. We've seen again enormous success with the movement to an individual membership model for the organisation. The number of collaborators has just exploded. We had 31,000 registered collaborators in 2013, but at least a third of those were inactive, had come and gone, and were no longer really involved in Cochrane or interested in Cochrane in any way, shape or form. The new membership process enforced that we engaged with all our prospective members and supporters, and then developed a pathway to encourage and attract new Cochrane collaborators who could start as supporters and then through their contributions to the organisation become members. And as you know, we've now got well over 80,000 members and supporters, with the number increasing every week. But the learning from that process is that whilst it's absolutely critical that we continue to attract more supporters with different skill sets, different experience, and from diverse backgrounds, to make sure that Cochrane does indeed become an ever more global and diverse organisation, not one that looks like a white male from Britain, but has many more very different faces and draws from experience across the world. That we give those individuals clearer ways and worthwhile incentives to develop their expertise and ways of contributing to support our work, to provide online learning and development tools that attract and retain people interested in evidence synthesis that they can use free and in some cases pay for, but also to target very explicitly our intensive learning and development resources on those people that will bring maximum benefit to the organisation to meet our mission and goals. So we're going to have to be focused in the way that we target our learning and development to make sure that we do attract and retain the very best. In relation to our publishing and our finance, because the Cochrane Library and our publishing revenues are so central to the funding model for Cochrane, and will continue to be so for at least the next 5, and I would anticipate many more years to come. It was critical that we establish a new publishing partnership with which Cochrane could be happy, and I'm really delighted to say that, as I hope you've seen last month, we announced a new and extended publishing partnership with Wiley to go from 2021 to 2030. And we believe that that new publishing partnership and contract has some absolutely fundamental elements to it that will help us deliver our mission. Of course, it delivers improved financial terms, giving Cochrane a higher and more predictable financial base. And that's something that really does establish a sustainable base for Cochrane for the next decade. But critically too, it also provides strategic and financial commitments to ongoing product development in the Cochrane Library in the ways that I've set out earlier in this report. It commits Wiley to streamlining and improving the speed, reliability, accuracy and predictability of our content publication process, and to working ever more closely with ourselves and our other partners in that process, Highwire. It commits Wiley to continue to provide a customizable and flexible publishing platform. We ask more of our publishing platform than any journal provider in the world. And it can do and offer more than any other platform that's offered. We want to make sure that that continues to be the case, and that we develop our publishing systems and improve still further our publishing standards and technologies. And importantly, bearing in mind there is such a rapid pace of change in the publishing world, we want to make sure that we have the flexibility to achieve our open access ambitions with Wiley, and to support a sustainable open access future for Cochrane along the lines that we determine in the coming years. We've also drawn learning from for the new strategic framework from Cochrane's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And a couple of months ago, Carla took you through that response, so I'm not going to speak about that in any detail today. We've established and made clear where Cochrane's priorities are. We've been clearer than ever before about the key questions that we're going to be developing evidence in, and of course that means that we have to deliver against those promises. We've already seen tremendous success and huge take-up of rapid reviews and DTA reviews that have been, and normal reviews that have been published in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, with a number of those reviews in the top 25% of all research outputs scored by Altmetric. I mentioned earlier on the importance of COVID's COVID-19 study register, and we want to take the learnings from that and integrate that into our annotations, into our work, so that we become ever more of the place where those using study registers come for their work. And what we can already say is that we've got some key learning from our COVID-19 response, which is absolutely central to the new strategic framework that we're establishing and the new objectives within that we will be developing together. With the COVID-19 response of Cochrane has shown that we can, when we need to, respond quickly. This has been a revelation for some stakeholders who have basically written Cochrane off as high quality, but taking too long, absolutely incapable of delivering rapid evidence of a high quality in a timely way. We have shown that we can do that. We've shown that we can improve and increase our engagement with key external stakeholders, determine from them their evidence needs, and respond in an effective and capable and timely way. That has meant that we've had to develop new ways of working, which need to be integrated within our production systems. They will not replace the traditional ways of producing Cochrane reviews. Those will be improved and will continue, but they will have to run alongside, and we will need to make improvements and production changes, system and structure changes, to make sure that we can do that to a greater scale and with greater efficiency in future. The response has also underscored the importance of the collaborative working around the world. Cochrane's depth of expertise and the willingness and engagement of its volunteers has been outstanding, and has been absolutely outstanding and recognised as such by our stakeholders. And that has fed our ability to be successful in the ways that I've just outlined. What it's also shown us is that we need increasingly to break Cochrane silos between CRGs as the only producer of Cochrane reviews, but recognise we need to integrate within them and to work better those CRGs with experts who are working in other parts of Cochrane. So Cochrane's methodological community and our centres, including many of you in the United States, have been integrally involved in the production of Cochrane's evidence response to the pandemic, as well as the knowledge translation and driving Cochrane evidence into policy and practice as a result. We're just starting an evaluation of Cochrane's organisational response to COVID-19 in the next month. Again, you'll be invited to give your views and so on, so that we can draw and deepen our learning and understanding of our COVID-19 response, which of course is set to go for many, many months and possibly years to come. So all of this has been captured and brought into our strategic framework for 2020 to 2025. You'll note that the framework we're thinking will extend for possibly up to a decade or beyond, but we've not. We may even drop the time period as in the final product. What we have come around to push strongly with those stakeholders who've been involved in the work so far has been that the strapline that Cochrane has of trusted evidence, informed decisions, and better health is a really powerful tool for us to both to chart what we're doing in terms of setting it as a framework, and also communicate it to the outside world. And so you will see more of a pickup of that in the draft vision, mission and goals which we are proposing to the community, and will begin to open a process of consultation in the next couple of weeks. We're proposing a slight change to both our vision and mission. Our vision to be a world of better health for all people, where decisions about health and healthcare are informed by trusted evidence. The vision in these strategic frameworks very much sets out the picture of the world that we as an organisation want to see and obviously work to bring about. And that's the vision that the vision statement that we're proposing. Again, you'll see it's a tweaking, it's a tightening of the vision statement that we established for Strategy 2020. The same thing is true for our mission. I showed you at the top of this presentation our existing mission, and the slightly tweaked version that we are proposing is that our mission is to inform health decision making by producing trusted and timely synthesized evidence, making it accessible and advocating for its use. You'll be able to see how those elements of the vision and mission are then taken through in what we believe is a much more integrated and coherent way in the wordings proposed for the new 4 goals. You will see too that the goals have not changed very much at all, that their scope and focus is very much that of those established for Strategy 2020. And that's because we believe that we have got them right. The governing board has looked at this in great detail, and at the end of the day, they've signed these off as the goals that are going to be opened up to the community and to our external stakeholders for engagement. But they're happy that that they're set in the right ways, such that goal 1 continues to be focused on producing trusted evidence, that we produce trusted and timely synthesized evidence addressing the most important questions for health decision making. Secondly, that we inform health decisions by making Cochrane evidence accessible and usable for those who need it. That we're advocating for evidence by becoming a leading global advocate for evidence-informed healthcare. And finally, and undergirding, once again, those three key foci for our activities, that we become an organisation that's ever more collaborating effectively, that we are an independent, global, diverse, sustainable, and well-run collaboration of members and supporters. They're the strategic framework which will be rolled out to you for your comments and inputs in the coming months. Underneath them will be, and we'll give you these in much more detail when we do that rollout, and we're still working on the wording, a set of draft strategic objectives which will change. Some objectives might be for only a couple of years, some might be for 3 years, some might be for 5 years before they change. They will flex and adapt. And below each of those objectives will be a set of activities that are moving constantly on an ongoing annual or general basis, and that gives us a much greater degree of agility to change where our focus of concentration and priorities are within our 4 goals. But just to highlight that what you will see will be 4 objectives around the areas of being relevant, high quality, updated and efficient in the areas of producing trusted evidence. In relation to goal 2 is informing health decisions, that we be usable, accessible, and that we be ever more conscious and aware and know more and more about the reach and impact of our work, that circles back and allows us to ensure that our evidence is being utilised and meeting our mission more effectively. Goal 3, we are specifically saying that we're going to be advocating for evidence to influence health decision making and to improve evidence quality. And details of that will be in the both those things will be in the pack being sent out to you. And finally, that the initial concentration on collaborating effectively will be around becoming a global and diverse organisation, investing in our people in the ways that I've set out, striving ever more, and it's been a theme I hope you've recognised, in becoming more effective and efficient in the use of our resources, and building sustainability through the development of particularly a Cochrane library, but also other means by which we're diversified in our financial and resources. So, for the next decade, Cochrane will deepen and extend the organisational transformation of Cochrane that we've already achieved. You will see, I hope, that it is far more about continuity, expansion, and greater depth of taking what we've achieved so far and driving it ever more effectively in the life of the organisation. But our concentration on responding to user needs, the accessibility of our evidence, and impact on health decision making will be even more important for us in the next 10 years. That the Strategy 2020 themes are continued, but that the objectives and activities will flux and change over time in a more agile way. And that the investments that we have made and will continue to make in people, processes and technology will ensure that we're future-proofed to be able to produce and disseminate future evidence needs that the world has of Cochrane, but that we're going to be focusing our scarce resources on making sure that we're ever more effective in facilitating, supporting and working together to maximise value for money and impact at the end of the day in what we do, what we offer, and how much it's cost us in resources of all kinds to produce. So it's an exciting future, I believe. It's building on the successes that we've made over the last 6 years, but also grappling with the big challenges that I believe we've identified that Cochrane has, that we've already been working to mitigate, but need to continue those efforts in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark, for that wonderful, complete, in-depth update on where Cochrane is going with its strategic planning. I've asked people on the conference to type in their questions, and we've got one so far from Catherine Jones. But before we get to that one, I want to ask you a personal question. And you started your career as a journalist. Whatever got in your head to become a CEO of a major healthcare organization from a background in journalism, and what talents and skills did you get from journalism that have served you well in your role, and what talents and skills have hindered you, if any?
Well, I know that I was asked to come to Cochrane, and not per se because of my journalism skills, but because of my career in being involved in complex international volunteer organisations and other complex organisations where where the process is about capturing the enthusiasm and skills of people around the world and making sure that they're focused to the goals of the organisation. So that came about through 11 years with the International Red Cross, where I finished on the senior management of the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies in Geneva, that had involved me in humanitarian and volunteer operations around the world, then leading a complex international development organisation. And Cochrane has many features of the Red Cross and others, and the organisational challenges are very similar as well. So though I'm not a researcher, as you all know, and not a health expert, and the critical questions about organisational transformation, the critical answers, as well as the questions and the engagements and the processes that need to make the transformation that I've just set out effective, they hopefully are helped and supported by my personal skill set, drawing from that expertise. As a journalist, I hope that I communicate well and effectively, both in written and oral form. Of course, the rest of you might not agree with that after the last half an hour, but hopefully, my ability to enthuse and engage individuals is an important part of that skill set, because for me, Cochrane lives and dies by its people, and if I can share and communicate my enthusiasm and where we're going in a way that is impactful, empowering, and energizing to Cochrane's members and supporters, then I've done my job.
And where, as a follow-up, where do journalists fit into the strategic plans of Cochrane in the coming years?
Well, our media and communication teams span, as you've gathered, goals 2 and 3. They make sure that Cochrane evidence is put into put in front of those very wide-ranging key audiences that we've identified, and that we really engage effectively with on a social media platform, in our own web and other media platforms, that we engage with mass media, and that we do that all in a responsive way, which allows people to increasingly use that information in more effective ways. So that team is a brilliant team, and is working there, and also supporting our efforts to speak out, and that Cochrane's voice is louder and heard more effectively by policymakers, by practitioners around the world on issues that we think are important.
So Mark, I'll direct you to the chat box. I'm not sure if you're able to read it. We have a question from Catherine Jones, and I can read it to you, or you can read it out yourself. Let me know what you'd like to do.
No, if you can read it, just
okay, sure. So Catherine Jones says, I'm interested to understand more about the different models from which contributors are coming from in terms of evidence synthesis and scope. For example, biomedical, biopsychosocial, and other models. Is this something that could be explored more beyond 2020?
I think the short answer to that is yes. When I said that we wanted to attract, the best and the brightest, one of the important ways in doing that is making sure that the journeys by which individuals come and can see that they can make a contribution from whatever aspect in either health research or many other areas. You asked about my skill set as a journalist. I want more journalists to be coming to work with Cochrane to help us in those associated tasks. And that means that the journeys that you've begun to see in relation to the crowd, to what we've termed task exchange, to the engagement that supporters have, and the route that they follow through to becoming members, isn't just about being necessarily an author on a Cochrane review team. But that we increasingly offer a range of ways by which people can clearly contribute, be recognised and incentivised for that contribution. And so that is something that's at the very heart of our, not only our membership and support strategies, but also our the development of our work across the piece. We have to make sure that we are attracting, capturing, and making that experience of those who work with Cochrane as volunteers as productive and rich as possible. So yes, we will engage on this, and if you have good ideas to help us in that process, we'd love to hear them.
We have a question from Dina Carr. It's a short one, so I won't butcher it as much this time. How does Cochrane balance open access with the need for revenue?
That is a really good question, and I must confess that as the CEO responsible for that bottom line, over the last few years, that is the challenge that has me waking up screaming in the middle of the night, because we do want to make Cochrane Evidence more and more open access. But given what I've explained about our reliance on subscription income, it means that as that percentage of open access reviews goes up, and as we look to deliver on what has been our long-standing hope and ambition to be in a proper OA offering, in the sense that reviews would be immediately open access, with all that means. Then it is a real balancing act. After trying very many different things around diversification of other products and services in the last 5 years, in looking at how we might diversify our fundraising base through partnerships or through trusts and other fundraising efforts, it's clear to us that there will be no alternate funding source that comes anywhere near to being as large, as consistent, and as productive as the subscriptions that we receive for the Cochrane Library. And therefore, our strategy is how we make the Cochrane Library offering more and more value added, such that those Cochrane reviews that are open access, and eventually when all of them, we're in a position as an organisation to say that we can move to a complete OA position, that when that comes, and we've not said when that is going to be, we've signed a 10-year deal with Wiley that gives us the flexibility on that and allows us to work with them to move to that objective, and we'll be doing that. But we have to make sure that when that change comes, and we hope we will be able to make it in the course of the next 5 to 10 years, that when we do that, we'll be doing it in a solid, secure fashion to ensuring that it's not going to undermine the long-term sustainability of the organisation.
Mark, we're coming to the top of the hour. We have 2 final questions in the chat box. Are you okay to take 2 more?
Of course.
The first comes from Tiffany Dirk, who is our new coordinator for our US network. And she asks, in considering the goal of increasing the visibility, accessibility, and use of Cochrane science and evidence, and reaching out to new stakeholders and policymakers, what are your suggestions for those who may not be familiar with the how and why of Cochrane to begin to understand it, given the complexity and breadth of the organization?
Well, I really hope, it's a good question, Tiffany, and you know, it goes back to that communication challenge. I really hope that that when we end the process of the strategic framework and so on, that vision, mission, and goals, and let's just keep it at that, plus our plus our strap lines and other key communication tools, can very effectively communicate to those outside Cochrane who we are and what we do in our essence. And I believe that we've made huge strides in that. As a professional communicator, I believe I've contributed to that, but I think we have. We can be much better than that. But if your engagement with this process of strategic review and development for the future has an eye on how can we better communicate what Cochrane is and what Cochrane does, such that we attract support, we attract understanding, we attract engagement, then you will really help us to crystallize and consolidate our communication messages, but even more importantly, our strategic ambitions in ways that are more likely to succeed.
Okay, final question, Mark, from King. Can you help us understand the difference and collaboration between Cochrane and Prospero, the International Perspective Registry for Systematic Reviews?
We have a long-standing relationship with the University of York, which hosts Prospero. In fact, we are right now working together on a COVID-19 related funding application. So the relationship is really close, and we've said, for instance, that. In one of those, one of the things I highlighted was that our intention to open out and attract much more like a journal, submissions of high quality systematic reviews that have already been produced. But for instance, one of our requirements would be that at protocol stage, the protocol would have been registered in Prospero as a way of ensuring that that it's one of the quality tick boxes that we would need to make sure that we're even looking at it for prospective publication in the Cochrane Library. So the relationship is close, very close, and will continue to be so, I'm sure.
Mark, thank you so much for spending an hour with us and informing us so fully on the future strategies of Cochrane. It really has been comprehensive and well done, just like your CEO-ship of Cochrane. I want to express my personal thanks for your joining us, and I'm just going to pass the talking baton over to Patricia to have her thank you as well for joining us today.
Yes, Mark, thank you so much. What a great presentation. And thank you everyone who attended the meeting today. We will be posting the recording in our library website. And if Lisa is still in this call, maybe she can add the website link in the chat box. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us, myself or Bob. And we're going to have our next lecture is going to be August 26th. So let me see the date.
That's correct. August 26th, same time with Chris Maverdams, the Chief Information Officer of Cochrane.
Yes, and keep an eye for that. We're going to be sending the information for the next Cochrane lecture. Well, thank you everyone so much. And,
it's the 27th, Thursday the 27th. Yeah,
okay.
Sorry.
Perfect. Well, thank you everyone. Have a wonderful day. And do you have any other comments?
I don't. Thank you all for joining us today. Have a wonderful day and week, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Mark.
All the very best. Bye-bye.
Bye.